My name is Lena Hayes. I'm 19 years old, and this is the story of how my parents turned me into free labor. For my golden child sister, how I finally snapped, and how everything that came after changed my life in ways they still don't understand. My boyfriend Evan says it sounds like some messed up movie plot, but for me, it was just Tuesday. Hey, Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Grab your popcorn. You're going to need it. Growing up, I learned early that some kids are trophies and some are furniture. I was the furniture. Andrea was the trophy. My parents made that clear before she could even spell her own name. When we were little, they'd introduce her like she was a celebrity guest. This is our Andrea. She's our little star. Then they'd gesture vaguely at me. And this is Lena. She's very helpful. Helpful. Not smart, not talented, not funny, not anything. Just useful in the way a chair is useful. You don't think about it until it's gone. The favoritism started small. Andrea got the bigger bedroom with the nice window and built-in shelves. Girls need space, Mom had said, like I wasn't also a girl standing 3 feet away. When I asked why I couldn't have the room since I was older, she just smiled that tight little smile. You're more practical, Lena. You don't care about that stuff. They never asked if I cared. Andrea got the newer laptop. I got Dad's old one with the battery that died if you blinked at it too hard. Her car had less than 200,000 miles on it. Mine rattled every time I shifted into third and smelled faintly like spilled milk and despair. Their money went where their pride went. Andrea's college fund got regular deposits. I'd overhear them talking about scholarships and out-of-state options for her while they washed dishes together. Mine had dust. Literal dust. I once opened the folder labeled Lena College and found a bank statement with almost nothing in it and a handwritten sticky note that said, "We'll figure something out." Spoiler, they didn't. When Andrea joined cheer, there was never a question. Uniforms, competition fees, travel, paid without blinking. When I joined wrestling, Mom raised an eyebrow like I'd announced I wanted to live in a dumpster. "You really want to roll around on a mat with people sweating on you?" she asked. "It's a sport, Mom," I said. "There are girls' divisions. Coach thinks I'm good." "Cheer is more feminine," she said, already scrolling on her phone. "Andrea's routines are so impressive." My wrestling gear came out of my summer job money. Every single time. Dad would pat my shoulder and say things like, "Girls need more support," or "Your sister has social obligations," as if I was some genderless house goblin who slept in the walls. Mom was worse. She'd pit us against each other and then act shocked when Andrea treated me like trash. "Lena, why are you so jealous of your sister?" she'd ask after they bought Andrea something expensive. I wasn't jealous, I was tired. The real shift happened around Andrea's freshman year. That's when she realized tears were a cheat code. I watched her perfect it like a science experiment. First major incident, she borrowed my laptop for a history test. Swore she'd return it by 9. I had a paper due at midnight. 9 came and went. At 10, I knocked on her door. "Andrea, I need my laptop." "Go away, Lena, I'm studying." "At least let me use it for an hour." She cranked up her music. At midnight, panic clawed at my chest. I knocked again, louder. "Andrea, seriously, I have a paper due." Her door flew open and she stormed out in tears. 10 minutes later, she was sobbing in the living room, clinging to Dad like she'd just survived a war, telling them I'd been harassing her for hours and calling her stupid while she tried to study. Dad turned on me like I'd kicked a puppy. "Is that true?" he demanded, already deciding it was. "No," I said. My voice sounded small, even to me. "I just asked for my laptop back. Twice." Andrea gasped like I'd slapped her. "You're calling me a liar?" Mom's eyes narrowed. "Lena, apologize to your sister, right now." The next day, my laptop showed up on my desk with a cracked screen and coffee stains baked into the keyboard. When I showed Mom, Andrea started crying immediately. "She's framing me," she said between sobs. "She's jealous because I get better grades." "I'm what?" I whispered. Mom put a hand on my shoulder, but her eyes were on Andrea. "Lena, stop. This is ugly. Say you're sorry." I apologized for I don't even know what. Existing, maybe. After that, I learned it was safer to shut up and stay invisible. Andrea would create chaos, and I'd get blamed. Saying anything made me the villain in a story I hadn't written. The cruise announcement came 3 weeks before her birthday. They called a family meeting. Mom was practically vibrating. "We've planned something special for Andrea's Sweet 16, Dad said. 8-day Caribbean cruise, 9 days travel, all the bells and whistles. The whole family's going." For a second, something like hope flickered in my chest. Maybe this was different. Maybe we'd all go. Maybe we'd have one memory where I wasn't the shadow in the corner of the photo. Mom smiled. Andrea deserves it. She's worked so hard. Andrea preened like a cat in a sunbeam. Then Mom added, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, Lena stays home, obviously. Someone needs to watch the house and handle Andrea's schoolwork. She can't be stressed about homework while celebrating her birthday. The hope died so fast it left whiplash. Andrea's smile turned sharp. You get it, right, Lena? This is my special trip. Some of us actually matter. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. Yeah, I get it. Arguing with them was like arguing with a wall that could yell back. So I went to my room and stared at my ceiling until something in me quietly snapped. 4 days into that cruise, I'd turn 18. 18 meant I could get my own bank account without their names on it. Meant I could sign a lease. Meant I could walk away. I started job hunting that night. Warehouse work. Full-time. Decent pay. Benefits after 3 months. I told my parents it was just part-time to stay busy while they were gone. They barely heard me. Dad just said, "Don't let it interfere with Andrea's assignments," without looking up from his phone. I called my grandpa, Walter, the only adult who'd ever treated me like more than a utility. Told him about the cruise, the homework, the birthday I wasn't invited to. On the other end of the line, he was quiet for a beat. Then he said 4 words that made everything click. Good, get out, kid. That's when I knew I wasn't crazy. I was done. The morning they left, I set my alarm for 4:30 a.m. Some kid part of me still believed families were supposed to say goodbye properly. Dad was already in the kitchen, scrolling his phone. I said, "Morning." He grunted. That was the whole conversation. Andrea thundered down the stairs in a brand new outfit. When she saw me, her face soured like I'd ruined her photo op. That's when Dad lifted the massive stack of homework and dropped it in front of me. Her teachers agreed to take this late since she's traveling for her birthday, he said. Needs to be done and turned in Monday or she fails 3 classes. I stared at the pile. English essays on books she'd never read. Math worksheets she'd ignored all semester. A full history project with citations and a bibliography. 30, maybe 40 hours of work. You're serious? I asked. Do I look like I'm joking? His voice got that edge. You're living under our roof, eating our food. This is a simple ask. Don't make it difficult. I have a job starting Monday, I said. Then manage your time better, he snapped. This is what family does for each other. Mom appeared with Andrea's neck pillow and travel blanket. Sweetheart, don't fight this, she told me. The arrangements are already made with her teachers. Just do the work. Andrea inspected her nails. Honestly, Lena, most people our age balance jobs and school. Stop being dramatic. These are your assignments, your grades. She shrugged. And you're my sister. Sisters help. That's how it works. I looked from Andrea to Mom to Dad, waiting for one of them to realize how insane this sounded. None of them did. They were already calculating traffic. Andrea laughed when I asked, "How long will you be gone?" "Long enough for you to finally contribute something useful to this family," she said. They left 20 minutes later. Mom gave me a distracted wave. Dad didn't look back. Andrea blew a kiss from the car window like she was tossing scraps to a dog. The house went quiet. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the mountain of homework that wasn't mine, and felt something settle in my chest. Not rage, not even sadness. Clarity. I picked up the stack and carried it down the hall. Not to my desk, but to the place where I'd been planning my escape. This time, I wasn't going to be their furniture. I was going to move. I picked up the stack of homework and carried it down the hall. Not to my desk. To the place where, for weeks, I'd been quietly planning my exit. I set the papers down and pulled out my phone with hands that were a little less shaky than I expected. My thumb hovered over my contacts for a second before tapping the only person I knew would answer. Grandpa Walter picked up on the second ring. "You leaving today?" he asked. No hello, no small talk, just straight to the point, like always. "Soon as I finish packing," I said. "Good girl," he replied. I could hear the scrape of his chair in the background. "You need money?" "I've been saving," I said. "Got a job lined up. Warehouse gig across town. I already put a deposit down on a room to rent. I'm okay." There was a pause, the kind where you can feel the other person thinking. "Your parents are going to regret this, Lena," he said finally. "More than they know. You just focus on yourself now. I'll handle the rest." I frowned. "What does that mean?" "You'll see when the time comes," he said. "Pack your things. Don't look back." I didn't push. I just said, "Thanks, Grandpa," and hung up. For a moment, I just stood there in my room. The small one, the practical one, looking around at 18 years of my life compressed into mismatched furniture and hand-me-downs. Then I moved. I pulled my duffel bags from under the bed and started packing the essentials first. Clothes I actually wore, not the outfits Mom had bought on sale and then guilt-tripped me into keeping. My worn-in jeans, my work boots, the hoodie I'd stolen from Evan that still smelled faintly like his cologne. I yanked my backpack off the chair and emptied it onto the bed. Laptop, charger, notebooks, pens, the cheap headphones I used to drown out Andrea's late-night screech laughing with her friends. Next came the documents: birth certificate, social security card, school records. I'd spent weeks quietly collecting them, telling the school office I needed duplicates for college applications. Nobody questioned it. Invisible kids aren't suspicious. They're forgettable. I grabbed the watch Grandpa had given me, the one Dad had rolled his eyes at because it wasn't sleek enough. It was scratched, heavy, and reliable. I strapped it onto my wrist. By the time I was done, everything I owned that mattered fit into 2 duffel bags and a backpack. 18 years in 3 bags. I sat down on the edge of the bed for a second, breathing hard like I'd just run a race. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan, time-stamped from last night, sitting unread. Evan, you okay? Call me if you need to vent. I'm on late shift, but I'll answer. I typed back with shaky thumbs. Me, I'm leaving today. The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Evan, proud of you. Text me when you're safe, okay? Simple. No drama. Just belief. I put my phone in my pocket and stood. The packing was the easy part. The next thing I did was petty. I know that. I did it anyway. Our house was covered in photos. Hallway walls, the living room mantel, the staircase, the fridge, everywhere. Perfectly staged moments in matching outfits, vacation shots, Andrea's cheer photos blown up to near life size. You'd think we were one of those families who laughed together in slow motion. I started in the hallway. Frame by frame, I took down every photo that had me in it. Some I kept. The few that were from before things got bad, before I understood that hugs could be PR and smiles could be lies. Me on Grandpa's lap, both of us laughing at something off camera. Me holding a mangy cat I'd tried to adopt when I was 8. Most of them, I didn't. They were staged, posed, edited versions of a family that didn't really exist. Fake smiles plastered over years of me being an afterthought. For every picture I removed, I put the empty frame back in the exact same spot. Blank rectangles of glass, waiting. I wanted them to walk in and see every space where I'd been cut out. I moved through the living room next, clearing myself off the mantelpiece like I was erasing a character from a story. The staircase gallery went last. Those chronological photos that showed Andrea morphing from gap-toothed child to airbrushed teen. In the ones where I hovered at the edge of the frame, I vanished. 3 hours later, the house looked almost the same if you glanced quickly, but if you really looked, you'd see it, the outline of me missing everywhere. My fingers were shaking by the time I carried the stack of Andrea's homework back to the kitchen. I didn't throw it away. I sat down and leafed through each assignment, one by one. English essays on books she'd clearly never opened, blank outlines, half-finished sentences, highlighted instructions from teachers she'd ignored. Math worksheets where the only things filled in were her name and date. A history project template for the Cold War, with boxes that were still empty weeks after they'd been assigned. Pages and pages of nothing. She'd had all semester to do the work. She'd chosen not to. And now my parents expected me to pull an academic miracle out of my exhausted brain because their favorite didn't feel like trying. I stacked the papers neatly, squared the edges, and set them back in a perfect pile. Then I grabbed a sticky note from the drawer, uncapped a Sharpie, and wrote in big, all-caps letters. Not my problem. Good luck. I stuck it right on top. It felt better than I thought it would. Last stop was the kitchen wall calendar, Mom's pride and joy. It was color-coded within an inch of its life. Andrea's activities were all in purple. Cheer practice, competitions, Andrea's spa day, Andrea's friends' sleepover, doctor appointments, haircuts, social events. Dad had blue for work trips. Mom had green for her book club and yoga. My stuff was scribbled in pencil at the bottom of squares, if it made it onto the calendar at all. College application deadlines, half erased. Wrestling meets, cramped in the corner. My birthday? Not marked, not once. I took a red marker from the holder and found the date 5 days from now. Right in the middle of the box, In the biggest letters that would fit, I wrote, "Lena turns 18 and moves out." I circled it 3 times until the paper nearly tore. For a second, I just stared at it. This is it, I thought. You're actually doing it. I closed the calendar and left it open on the counter, not even bothering to hang it back up on the nail. Let it greet them first thing when they walked in, like a headline. The house was quiet. Too quiet. No Andrea shrieking into her phone. No mom humming while she wiped a perfectly clean counter. No dad's heavy footsteps. Just the faint hum of the fridge and my own heartbeat thudding in my ears. I grabbed my duffel bags and backpack, carrying them one by one to the front door. Each trip felt lighter, even as my arms burned. On my last pass through the house, I checked the important spots mechanically, like I was leaving a crime scene. Bedroom? Empty. Bathroom? Clear. Desk drawers? Only school junk I didn't need. Closet? Nothing but a few forgotten sweaters I'd never liked anyway. In the hallway, I paused by one of the empty frames. I could still see the faint dust outline of my face where the photo had been. "Not anymore," I whispered, more to myself than to the house. "You don't get to have me halfway." I picked up my keys from the bowl by the door. They still had the house key on the ring. I didn't take it off. Not yet. I stepped out onto the porch, pulled the door shut behind me, and locked it. The click echoed louder than it should have. I stood there for a moment, staring at the front of the house. The neat lawn Dad made such a big deal about. The flower beds Mom always used as proof we were a put-together family. The curtains Andrea insisted on changing every season. It all looked like a picture in someone else's life. My phone buzzed again. A text from Evan. "Evan, you out?" I typed back with trembling fingers. Me. "Yeah, just lock the door." 3 dots. Then, "Evan, good. Drive safe. Text me when you get to your new place, okay? I'm here." I swallowed hard and shoved my phone into my pocket before I could start crying. Then I walked to my car, loaded my 3 bags into the trunk, and slid into the driver's seat. When I pulled away from the curb, I didn't look in the rearview mirror for as long as I could help it. The house shrank behind me, from real to small to memory. For the first time in my life, the road ahead felt like mine. By the time I reached Margaret's neighborhood, a quiet street lined with old trees and houses that looked like they'd seen things, I could feel the fear and adrenaline starting to settle into something else. Not peace, not yet, but possibility. Margaret's house was a 2-story with chipped paint and a wide front porch that sagged a little under its own history. When I'd come to see the room the first time, she'd met me at the door with warm eyes and a no-nonsense tone. "Rent's due on the 1st, she'd said. "No parties, no drugs, no drama. You work hard and clean up after yourself. We'll get along fine." Now, I parked at the curb and just sat there for a second, staring at her front door. Then I grabbed my bags and walked up the steps. When she opened the door this time, she took one look at the luggage in my hands and the expression on my face and didn't ask any questions. "You're here," she said simply. "Yeah," I replied. "I'm here." She stepped aside, holding the door open wider. "Then come in, Lena. Welcome home." I crossed the threshold into a house that wasn't mine yet, but could be. My new life was waiting. They could figure out their own. I carried my bags upstairs to the small bedroom Margaret rented out. The door creaked softly when I pushed it open. A lived-in sound, not the brittle silence of my old house. The room wasn't fancy. A narrow bed, a plain wooden desk, a small dresser, a window that looked out over a backyard full of wildflowers and untrimmed grass. It felt imperfect in a way that made my chest loosen. There was space to breathe in here. I set my duffel bags on the bed and let out a slow exhale I didn't know I'd been holding. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from something unfamiliar. Relief, maybe. Or the weight of realizing I had actually done it. I turned 18 in 4 days. But today was the day I became my own person. I sat on the bed, pulled out my phone, and texted Evan. "Me. Made it. Safe." His reply came instantly, like he'd been waiting with the phone in his hand. "Evan, proud of you, really proud. Want a call?" I typed, deleted, retyped. Me. "Not yet. I'm still settling." Evan, "Whenever you're ready. I'm here." I put my phone aside and let my body slump back against the pillows. For the first time in years, the silence around me didn't feel oppressive. It felt like permission. After a few minutes, Margaret knocked lightly on the open door. "You hungry?" she asked. "I made a pot of chicken soup earlier. Not fancy, but it does the job." My throat stung. My parents had never once asked if I was hungry unless I was eating too much of Andrea's snacks. "That sounds really nice," I said. Margaret nodded like she understood far more than she let on. "Soup's downstairs when you want it. No rush." "And Lena?" I looked up. You're safe here. I nodded, unable to force any words out. She left the doorway, her footsteps quiet but certain. When I finally went downstairs, the house smelled like thyme and something warm I couldn't name. Margaret was sitting at the dining table with a crossword puzzle, glasses perched on her nose. Sit, she said without looking up. I sat. She ladled soup into a large bowl and slid it in front of me. Steam curled upward, fogging my face. One spoonful in, I felt my eyes burn again. Not because of the temperature, because this was what care felt like, and I hadn't even recognized it at first. You don't have to tell me anything, she said, but if you ever want to, I listen without interrupting. It's one of my better qualities. I let out a shaky laugh. My parents don't listen. I figured, she replied softly. Kids don't run unless they've been pushed. My chest tightened. I didn't want to run. I just didn't want to disappear. Margaret folded her crossword and met my eyes. Then you didn't run, Lena. You stepped into someplace brighter. I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded, murmuring, thank you. She reached over and squeezed my wrist once. Brief, firm, grounding. That's enough soup talk, she said briskly. Eat, then rest. Tomorrow's a work day for you, right? I smiled. Yeah, first day. Then you'll need your strength. Tony doesn't go easy on new hires. How do you know Tony? Oh, I don't, she said. But I know Tonys. The world is full of them. I laughed again, a real one this time, and went back to eating. My alarm went off the next morning at 5 a.m., but I was already awake. My mind had been buzzing half the night with thoughts I couldn't quite pin down. Fear, excitement, guilt, hope, all tangled together like knotted wires. I dressed in jeans and a plain shirt, tied my hair back, grabbed my backpack, and headed downstairs. Margaret was sipping tea in the kitchen. Nerves? She asked. Yeah. That means you're alive. Good sign. She handed me a granola bar. Eat this on the way. I thanked her, walked out into the early morning air, and drove across town to the warehouse. The building loomed enormous and gray, with semi-trucks lined like soldiers in the lot. The air smelled like diesel and cold metal. My stomach did a slow flip. I stepped inside the employee entrance and followed the signs to the main break room. A tall man with a gray beard and a limp from what looked like an old injury spotted me immediately. You Hayes? He barked. Yes, Lena, yeah. I'm Tony, supervisor. Clock in, grab a vest, follow me. He walked fast for a man who moved stiffly, so I nearly jogged to keep up. He didn't talk, didn't explain, just led me through rows of crates and forklifts humming like restless animals. Finally, he stopped. You run from something? He asked suddenly. I blinked. What? He pointed at me. That look in your eyes. People don't get that look unless they're running from something or toward something. If it's toward, good. If it's from, also fine, long as you keep moving. I swallowed. Maybe both. He nodded once. That's usually the right answer. Then he shoved a manifest sheet into my hands. Let's work. And for the first time in a long time, someone handed me responsibility instead of resentment. Tony didn't hover, didn't doubt me, didn't treat me like a fragile inconvenience. He showed me how to scan crates efficiently, how to organize sections, how to check labels quickly. He corrected mistakes once, never twice, and always with the same tone, like facts, not judgment. By noon, sweat clung to my shirt and my arms ached, but I'd never felt more real. Tony clapped me on the shoulder during break. You'll be fine, he said. You work like someone who's trying to rebuild something. I guess I am. He nodded. Good. Rebuild it better than the first version. My birthday came 4 days later at 5 a.m. in the warehouse parking lot. Just me and my car, and a cheap gas station coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. No cake, no candles, no off-key singing. But the morning sun was rising in the side mirror, turning the sky pink and gold, and I realized something that made my throat tighten. This was the best birthday I'd ever had. Not because of what I got, because of what I didn't. I didn't get blamed. I didn't get ignored. I didn't get used. I just existed. And for once, existing felt like a gift. The first week passed quietly, then the second, then the third. I found a rhythm. Work at 6 a.m., home by 4 p.m., dinner, shower, study, sleep. No screaming, no guilt trips, no Andrea slamming doors because her mascara smudged. No mom reminding me that Andrea has so much on her plate. No dad acting like I owed them my bones. Every day was proof I'd done the right thing. Every day was mine. A week later, I went back to the old house for the last time. I told myself it was practical. I needed my good winter coat, my old textbooks, a few essays for school. That was it. But truthfully, some part of me wanted to see if they'd even noticed I was gone. The house was dead silent when I stepped inside. Too silent. I picked up what I came for, stuffed everything into a tote bag, and turned to leave. Then, out of habit, I checked my phone. 20 missed calls, 12 texts, 2 voicemails. All from the last 6 hours. My parents, Andrea, unknown numbers. I didn't open a single one. I hit delete all, then I hit block. All 3 numbers. Then I walked out, locked the door one last time, and drove back to Margaret's place. My new life was waiting. They could figure out their own. The calls didn't stop, they just went straight to voicemail. I didn't check a single one. Instead, I got a call from someone I did pick up for. Mr. Carlson, my history teacher, the only adult at school who'd ever looked at me like he'd noticed something wasn't quite right. Lena, he said gently, your parents called the school asking for your whereabouts. They also called about Andrea's missing assignments. I let out a slow breath. Her assignments are not my responsibility. That's what I told them, he said. But they're coming to the school tomorrow, and they're insistent. They think you're in danger or kidnapped. I'm not. I know, but be aware. They're escalating. I'm 18, I reminded him. They can't make me go back. No, he said. But people like your parents don't like when control slips. They're going to push. I felt the truth of that settle in my bones. Thanks for telling me. Take care of yourself, Lena, he said. And for what it's worth, good for you. After we hung up, I set my phone down and leaned back in my chair. I was free, but I wasn't done. Not yet. Margaret knocked on my door that evening. 3 soft taps, the kind she used when she sensed something was off. Lena, she said quietly, your parents are here. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. Here, I repeated. They're on the porch, she whispered. All 3 of them. Your dad is pacing like a caged lion. Your mom is in the car on her phone. Andrea is scrolling through something in the back seat. Of course she was. Did you tell them I live here? I asked. Margaret's brows pinched. I told them I have tenants, but I don't discuss my tenants with strangers. Doesn't matter what they demanded. They don't get to bully their way around my house. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Okay, I'll talk to them. You don't have to do anything alone, she said gently. I'll stay where you can see me. I nodded, wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans, and followed her down the stairs. Through the window, I saw exactly what she described. Dad pacing the lawn, jaw clenched, hands flexing like he was holding back the urge to break something. Mom in the passenger seat, phone held to her ear, expression tight with anger or panic. It was hard to tell with her. Andrea in the back seat, legs crossed, scrolling with a bored look. Like this was a mild inconvenience instead of them hunting down the daughter they'd abandoned in a house full of empty frames. I opened the door. Cold evening air washed over me. All 3 heads snapped up. Dad was the first to move. Relief flashed in his eyes, but it flickered out the moment he saw I wasn't running to him. His face twisted into something familiar and ugly, offense disguised as authority. There you are, he barked. What the hell is this, Lena? Where have you been? Your room is empty. You're not answering calls. And Andrea is failing 3 classes because you didn't do her work. I held my ground on the porch. I moved out. We can see that, he snapped. Why? Because I'm 18, and I'm done being your built-in housekeeper, babysitter, and ghost. Dad took a step toward me, anger spiking. You're still in high school. You can't just leave. You have responsibilities. None of which involved doing Andrea's homework. Mom got out of the car then, slamming the door hard enough to make me flinch. Her arms crossed instantly, a shield she used to block criticism, real or imagined. Lena, she said sharply, stop this. You're being childish. If this is about the cruise, we can talk about it. But running away and sabotaging your sister's education? Unacceptable. I felt something inside me snap, quietly, cleanly, finally. I didn't sabotage anything, I said. Andrea had months to do her assignments. That's on her, not me. Andrea rolled her eyes and got out of the car, her hair perfectly curled and her attitude even more polished. You are so freaking dramatic, she said. You're mad because you didn't get to go on my birthday trip. Grow up, Lena. The world doesn't revolve around you. I let out a short, humorless laugh. It revolves around you. Always has. Andrea blinked in surprise. Not hurt, just confused that I wasn't folding the way I always did. I needed help, she said, her voice turning that fake soft tone she used on teachers and boys. You're supposed to help your family. No, I said simply. Family helps each other. What we were wasn't family. Mom stepped forward, voice cracking. Lena, please, just come home. Things can go back to normal. Normal? I repeated. Where Andrea gets everything and I get whatever's left? Where my birthday isn't even on the calendar? Where I'm useful but never important? Dad surged closer. Enough. Get in the car. We're not doing this in front of strangers. Behind me, Margaret opened the front door wider so she was clearly visible. Her presence steadied me. "You don't get to order me around anymore," I said. "I'm 18. I have a job. I pay rent. You can't make me go anywhere." Dad's face darkened. "We're your parents." "You were my parents, Amomea," I said, "when you left me home from a vacation to do someone else's homework. You were my parents when I practically raised myself while you spoiled Andrea. You were my parents when you pretended I wasn't there unless you needed something done." Dad climbed the porch steps. He was close now, too close. Andrea hovered behind him, filming on her phone, suddenly realizing, maybe, that she wasn't in control of the narrative anymore. Mom was near tears. "Lena, sweetheart, this is all a misunderstanding. We love you." "No," I said. "You love Andrea. You tolerated me." Dad's voice cracked like a whip. "You ungrateful little." He lunged forward and grabbed my shirt. His fist curled into the fabric, yanking me so hard I stumbled. His knuckles dug into my collarbone as he pulled me inches from his furious face. "You're coming home," he growled. "Now." Pain shot through my chest where he clenched my shirt. I tried to twist away, but he shoved me, hard, backward into the porch railing. The wood slammed into my spine. "Don't touch her!" Margaret's voice sliced through the air like a blade. She stood in the doorway, phone raised, recording. Dad didn't let go. "This doesn't concern you," he snarled at her. "It concerns me when a grown man assaults my tenant on my property," Margaret said, her voice calm but deadly. "Let her go." Mom rushed forward, grabbing Dad's arm. "Dennis, stop! You'll get in trouble." He didn't stop. Instead, he shoved me again, harder. My back hit the railing, and white pain sparked behind my eyes. I caught myself on the post so I didn't fall. "Coming home," Dad hissed, "or I'll drag you there myself." Something cold and sharp settled in me. "You touch me again," I said, voice steady despite the pounding in my ears, "and I'll call the cops." Dad barked a laugh. "You'll what? Call the police on your own father?" "Absolutely," I said. Margaret raised her phone higher. "I'm calling right now, and my doorbell camera got everything." Dad froze for a fraction of a second. Mom pulled harder on his shirt now. "Dennis, please, she's serious." He let go of me with one last shove, stepping back with his face twisted in rage. "This isn't over," he spat. "No," I said, "it is." Margaret tapped her phone. "Police are on their way." Dad turned and stormed down the steps. Andrea scrambled back into the car, locking the door instantly. Mom slid in behind her. Dad peeled out so fast he left tire marks on Margaret's driveway. Silence settled on the porch like dust. Margaret lowered her phone. "Are you okay?" My shoulders throbbed where the railing had hit me, but I nodded. "I'm fine." "You're not fine," she said. "But you will be." She lifted her phone. Doorbell camera got every second. "So did Andrea," I said quietly, "but she'll use it for the wrong reasons." Margaret's mouth tightened. Good thing her version doesn't matter, because the truth was about to. 20 minutes later, red and blue lights reflected off Margaret's windows. Officer Harper knelt beside me, gently examining the marks on my shoulders, while her partner talked to Margaret near the porch. "You're 18?" she asked. "Yes." "And you live here?" "I have a lease," I said. "I can show you." Her expression softened with something like respect. "Your father grabbed you hard enough to leave marks, shoved you twice, and threatened to forcibly remove you. That's assault and battery." I swallowed. "Okay. You want to press charges?" My pulse hammered in my ears. Did I? Did I really want to have my father charged? The girl I used to be, the invisible daughter, the furniture, would have said no. The girl on Margaret's porch, with bruised shoulders and a shaking voice, said, "Yes." Officer Harper nodded. "Okay, we'll file the report. You'll need to come to the station tomorrow for a statement. And Lena?" "Yes?" "You did the right thing." After they left, Margaret sat with me on the couch, tea in her hands and worry in her eyes. "You didn't blow up your family," she said softly. "They lit the match. You just stopped standing in the fire." I looked down at my bruised arms. "I don't know if that makes me feel better," I whispered. "It will," she replied. "One day." The next day I went to the police station, gave my statement, submitted the video, and began the restraining order paperwork. The temporary order was granted immediately. Dad would have to stay 500 feet away from me, my job, Margaret's house, and my school. Violation meant arrest. When I walked out of the courthouse later that week with the official papers in my hand, I realized something. For the first time in my life, I was protected. Not by family, by the law, by strangers, by myself. And I wasn't done yet. 2 weeks later, I sat in a courtroom with Margaret beside me, steady, calm, a quiet anchor in the storm, as the judge reviewed the restraining order case. Dad sat at the opposite table with a lawyer who looked like he charged by the minute. Mom sat beside him, clutching tissues. Andrea was nowhere to be found, probably filming a get ready with me video or ranting to her friends about how I'd ruined her life. The judge watched the video from Margaret's doorbell camera in complete silence. The shove, the grab, the threat. The second shove, my voice saying, "Don't touch me." Margaret saying, "Let him go." When it finished, the judge looked at my father over her glasses. "Mr. Hayes," she said slowly, "this is not a misunderstanding. This is not family conflict. This is assault." Dad's lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor, my client regrets his actions. He was attempting to bring his daughter home during a moment of heightened emotions." "She is 18, the judge cut him off sharply. "She is legally an adult. You had no right to forcefully grab or restrain her." Mom sniffled loudly. "She's being manipulated." The judge held up a hand. "Mrs. Hayes, unless you are physically present and can refute the footage, I suggest you remain silent." Mom wilted. Dad clenched his jaw so hard I thought the enamel on his teeth might crack. The judge turned to me. "Ms. Hayes, do you still wish to pursue the restraining order?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." Dad's nostrils flared like a bull's. The judge nodded once. "Then I see no grounds to deny it." She stamped the papers. "A full 12-month restraining order will be issued. Mr. Hayes, you are to remain 500 feet away from Ms. Hayes, her residence, her workplace, and her school. Any violation will result in immediate arrest." Mom looked like she was going to faint. Dad stood, fists clenched, shaking his head. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "She's my daughter." "She is also legally an adult," the judge reminded him coolly. "And in this courtroom, her safety matters more than your feelings." That one sentence cracked something in me. Something old, something raw, something that had never been defended before. My safety mattered, for the first time in 19 years. When the hearing ended, Margaret squeezed my shoulder as we walked out. "You did good, Lena." I nodded, but my throat felt too tight to speak. Outside the courthouse, the air felt different, sharper, cleaner, like something heavy had been peeled off my skin. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan. "Evan, how did it go? You okay?" Me. "Full restraining order, 1 year." Evan. "Good. I'm proud of you. Want me to come over?" Me. "Maybe later. I need to breathe first." Evan. "Whenever you're ready. I'm not going anywhere." That night, while I sat on my bed, replaying the hearing in my head, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Evan. It was Grandpa. "Grandpa Walter, your mother called me. Said you're destroying the family." She gave me an earful. I winced. Then another text came a second later. "We need to talk. Come visit this weekend. It's important." I stared at the words. Important. Grandpa didn't use that word lightly. Me. "About what?" He didn't text back. Instead, he called. His voice was steady, but heavy. "Lena," he said, "there's something you don't know yet. Something your parents won't be happy about when they do." "What is it?" "Better to tell you in person," he replied. "Drive up this weekend. I'll cover gas." A chill crept up my spine. "Is everything okay?" "No," he said gently, "but it will be." The drive to Grandpa's place took 4 hours. Back roads, farmland, open sky. Slices of freedom I'd never had growing up. His house sat on 20 acres and looked exactly the same as I remembered it. Warm, simple, and real. He met me on the porch, arms open. "You look better," he said as he hugged me. "Lighter." "I feel lighter," I admitted. "Good, come inside." The kitchen smelled like coffee and old wood. He sat across from me, hands wrapped around his mug. "Your parents called me," he said, his voice low. "Crying, angry, blaming you, blaming me. Blaming everyone but themselves." I sighed. "That sounds right." "Lena," he said quietly, "I changed my will 6 months ago." I blinked. "Okay?" "Everything goes to you." My breath caught. "What?" He nodded. "This house, the land, my savings, my retirement accounts, all of it. You're my only heir now." I can't, "You can," he said firmly, "and you will." I shook my head, overwhelmed. "Grandpa, Mom and Dad will lose their minds." He leaned back and crossed his arms. "Let them." "Why would you do that?" I whispered. He met my eyes. "Because I watched your parents shower Andrea with everything while you got scraps. I watched them make you invisible, and I'm not letting them erase you from my life the way they tried to erase you from theirs." My throat closed. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You deserve a future," he said softly, "a real one, and I want you to have a foundation they can't touch." I swallowed hard. "Why tell me now?" "Because your mother is already digging," he said. "I wanted you to hear it from me before they twist it into something it's not. They're about to make noise. A lot of it." My chest tightened. "What kind of noise?" "Oh, the usual," he said dryly, threatening to contest the will, claiming I'm being manipulated, saying you're exploiting an old man. I groaned. "Seriously?" He smirked. "Don't worry. They can contest all they want. They won't win." I rested my forehead on the table. "This is a lot." "Yeah," he said, "but you're strong enough to handle it." And somehow, sitting there in that kitchen filled with old coffee mugs and memories that didn't hurt, I believed him. When I got back to Margaret's house, a quiet settled over me. Deep, grounding, steady. My parents had not called, had not texted, had not shown up. But it wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, I got a call from Mr. Carlson. "Your parents showed up at school," he said. "Again." I closed my eyes. Of course they did. "They're telling the administration that your grandfather manipulated you into leaving home so he could cut them out of his will." I laughed. A short, disbelieving sound. "That's creative." "Ridiculous," he said. "But they're pushing hard. They want the school to document that you're being coerced." "Coerced into what?" I asked. "Having a job? Being safe? Not doing Andrea's homework?" He sighed. "They're desperate, Lena. Just be careful." "I will." When I hung up, I sat on my bed, feeling something unfamiliar in my chest. Not fear. Not guilt. Strength. For the first time, they were the ones panicking. Not me. And they hadn't even seen the biggest shift yet. My life was just beginning. That week, everything around me started moving faster, like someone had pressed fast forward on a movie I'd only just learned how to watch. Work became my anchor. Tony noticed I showed up early, stayed late, learned fast, didn't complain. He didn't treat me like a child or like dead weight. When I messed something up, he corrected me calmly. When I did something right, he nodded once, approving but never patronizing. On day 5, he found me reorganizing a chaotic shelf of mislabeled inventory. "You're thinking like management," he said. I blinked. "I'm just fixing it." "Same thing," he said, then added with a grunt, "You stick around, you'll move up." It was strange hearing that. Stranger still that I believed him. 2 weeks after the restraining order hearing, an envelope came to the warehouse. My name was written on the front in my mother's fancy cursive. The same handwriting she used on Andrea's birthday invitations, Andrea's thank you cards, Andrea's college prep notes. Everything was always about Andrea. I nearly threw the letter away unopened. But curiosity is its own brand of torture, so I opened it. It was 3 pages long. 3 pages of emotional manipulation dressed up as concern. "We're worried about you. You've always been so naive, Lena. We can forgive you if you come home. Dad is devastated you made him look violent. Andrea is distraught. You owe her an apology. We'll help you with college if you stop this nonsense. Family sticks together during hard times. We love you even when you make mistakes." Not one apology, not one acknowledgement of what they did, not one sentence about hurting me. Just anger that I'd embarrassed them and disrupted the Andrea show. I showed the letter to Tony during lunch. He read it, scoffed, and handed it back. "This," he said, "is someone trying to buy back control." "They're trying to buy me with promises," I muttered. "And conditions," Tony added. "Promises from people like that always come with strings, Lena. And ropes, and chains." I let out a breath. "Yeah." "You respond to this?" he asked. "No." "Good," he said. "Don't give them an inch." The next 3 days were quiet. Too quiet. Then chaos. Margaret knocked on my door late Friday evening. Her expression was tight, worried. "There's someone outside asking for you." My stomach clenched. "My parents?" "No," Margaret said. "Your sister." I froze. "Andrea, at my workplace?" I grabbed my jacket and followed Margaret downstairs. Through the window, I saw Andrea leaning against her car, her perfect hair curled, her high-end outfit all wrong for a warehouse parking lot filled with trucks and tired workers. She looked wildly out of place. She also looked nervous. Tony stood nearby, arms crossed, guarding the entrance like he was filtering out smoke from clean air. I stepped out onto the asphalt, keeping a solid 10 feet between us. "What do you want?" I asked. Andrea swallowed. Her mascaraed lashes fluttered, not in a manipulative way, more like she didn't know what to do without an audience. "I need help," she said. I stared at her. "With what?" She looked around, uncomfortable. "Summer school." I laughed under my breath. "Let me guess. You're failing." Her eyes filled with tears instantly. "A reflex, a habit, a weapon. If I don't pass summer school, I won't graduate on time," she said, voice trembling. "Mom and Dad are furious. They're blaming you." "Sounds like a them problem," I said calmly. "Lena, please," she whispered. "I know I messed up. I know I haven't been great. But just this once, can you help me? Please." I stared at her. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel small. I didn't feel obligated. I felt clarity. You're asking me to do your work for you, I said. She opened her mouth, closed it, then lifted her chin stubbornly. We're family. No, I said softly. We're related. That's not the same. Her eyes hardened instantly. Tears evaporated like steam off a hot pan. There it is, she snapped. The real you. Selfish, cold. Dad was right. You only care about yourself. I smiled, calm, almost pitying. Funny, I said. That's what you said every time I didn't set myself on fire to keep you warm. Andrea flinched. You failed because you didn't do the work, I continued. Not because I didn't bail you out. Figure it out yourself. I turned back toward the warehouse. Andrea's voice snapped like a whip behind me. You're ruining my life. I didn't even turn around. No, I said over my shoulder. You did that all on your own. Her tires screeched as she sped out of the parking lot. Tony exhaled loudly. Well, he said, that was something. I nodded. Yeah. You okay? Actually, I said, I think I am. 3 days later, Grandpa called. His voice was firm, but there was tension beneath it. Your mother knows about the will, he said. My heart thudded. How? I demanded. I told her, he said simply. Figured it was time. I pressed my palm to my forehead. Why, Grandpa? Because she needed to understand the consequences, he said. Her reaction confirmed every reason I made the change. What did she say? He sighed deeply. She screamed for 20 minutes, cried, accused me of favoritism, manipulation, betrayal, elder abuse, you name it. I swallowed. Is she going to contest it? She'll try, he said, but she'll fail. I nodded, throat tight. Lena, he said quietly, your parents are going to come at you even harder now. They're desperate. Don't fall for anything they say. Not guilt, not tears, not threats, not money. I won't, I whispered. Good, he said. Stand your ground. I'm proud of you. I blinked fast, trying to steady my voice. Thanks, Grandpa. Call me if they show up again, he said. I mean it. I will. We hung up. And for the first time, I realized my parents weren't just angry. They were terrified. Because the daughter they ignored, belittled, and used like furniture was becoming someone they couldn't control anymore. From that point on, my parents' behavior shifted from desperate to unhinged. It was like watching a dam crack, slow at first, then suddenly in 10 places at once. The first crack came from the school. Mr. Carlson called me early Saturday morning. I was still in pajamas, hair a mess, sitting on Margaret's couch with a cup of tea she'd forced into my hands. Lena, he said after a breath, you need to hear this. My chest tightened. What happened now? Your parents just left the school, he said. They met with the principal demanding we intervene in your living situation. I groaned. Of course they did. They said your grandfather manipulated you into leaving home so he could cut them out of his will. I nearly choked on my tea. Are you kidding me? I wish I were, he said. They want the school to document that you're being exploited. Exploited? I repeated. By who, Margaret? Tony? My job? They claimed it was your grandfather, he said. They're painting him as some controlling villain who coerced you into moving so he could isolate you. I laughed, an exhausted, borderline hysterical laugh. They're unbelievable. They're desperate, he corrected. And when people like your parents get desperate, they get noisy. I'm not going back, I said. Not ever. I know, he replied. Just be careful. They're escalating. I will, I promised. And Lena? Yeah? For what it's worth, everyone who knows you is proud of you. That hit harder than I wanted to admit. After the call, I sat still, letting Margaret hover nearby with that worried, motherly look she pretends she doesn't have. They're not done, Margaret said quietly, handing me a fresh cup of tea. I know, I whispered. Good, she said, because now you can prepare. Monday at work, the whispers started. Not from coworkers, they mostly minded their own business, but from my phone. Blocked calls, voicemails I didn't open, texts I didn't read. Then, worse, mutual family friends reaching out. Friend of mom number 1. Your mother is heartbroken. You should call her. Friend of mom number 2. Your parents say you're being manipulated. Are you safe? Friend of mom number 3. Andrea posted something worrying. Do you need help? I deleted every message. But the final crack came publicly. Andrea posted on social media. A carefully edited TikTok rant. Some people in my family are destroying everything just because they're jealous of me. I won't name names, but it hurts when someone you love uses lies, false charges, and manipulation to punish the people who raise them, especially when they assault their own father. Assault! She claimed I assaulted him. Dozens of comments poured in. OMG, that's awful. Some siblings are so toxic. I hope she gets help. Stay strong, Queen. I stared at the video, expression blank. Andrea had always been good at one thing, spinning stories where she was the victim. But legally, the courts had the footage. The truth didn't need defending. Tony walked by the break room while I stared at my phone. He took one glance at my expression. That them? He asked. I nodded. He held out a trash can. Deposit it. I laughed weakly. It's digital. Then delete it, he grunted. Same damn thing. I did. Then went back to work. Because unlike my parents, I had a life to live. Later that week, Margaret invited me to dinner again. She'd made pot roast, her default meal, when she sensed I needed grounding. You've been here 6 months now, she said as we ate. Feels longer. In a good way, I clarified quickly. In a very good way, she said. You bring peace to the house. I raised an eyebrow. Me, peace? Yes, peace, she said. You're quiet, thoughtful, you clean up after yourself, and you don't slam doors. I laughed. Low bar, Margaret. Low bar is the best bar, she said. Consistent. We ate in silence for a moment. Then she asked, You hear from your family? They're making noise. Let them, she said simply. Noise isn't substance. I nodded. She was right. They could yell, scream, lie, manipulate, but it didn't change anything. I wasn't theirs to order around anymore. Fall arrived. The air got colder. My work vest got thicker. Leaves piled on the sides of the warehouse yard. I enrolled in night classes at the community college. Business management. It felt right, like a step toward something I could build. Tony supported it immediately. Good, he said. You want to move up? You need the credentials. I'll work the schedule around your classes. No guilt, no strings, no resentment. Just support. Something I'd never had from the people who should have given it first. Andrea failed summer school. She had to repeat her sophomore year. I heard through the grapevine she blamed me loudly and repeatedly. She ruined my life. She sabotaged me. She wants to make me look bad. But for once, no one bought it. Teachers had seen her skipping assignments for years. Friends had watched her cry her way out of responsibility. The school had the record of my parents demanding I do her work. The truth had receipts now. And receipts are louder than tears. The criminal charges against my dad moved slowly. He pled down to simple assault, but still got community service, anger management classes, a permanent mark on his record, and the restraining order remained. I heard from distant relatives he was furious. Mom tried smoothing things over, crying to anyone who'd listen about how I'd turned on the family. Again, noise, not substance. The truth was already sealed in legal paperwork and court logs. They couldn't rewrite what was on record. December came with cold air sharp enough to sting. On Christmas Eve, I got a call from Grandpa. Merry Christmas, Lena, he said warmly. Package coming your way. Should be there tomorrow. You didn't have to get me anything, I said. Oh, I had to, he replied. You're the only one worth celebrating. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. Christmas morning, a package sat on Margaret's doorstep. Inside was a brand new winter coat, a grocery store gift card, and a handwritten letter. I opened the letter slowly. Lena, I'm prouder of you than I've ever been of anyone. You're strong, braver than you know. The money will help you someday, but you've already proven you don't need it to stand on your own. That's what makes you worthy of it. Love, Grandpa Walter. I folded the letter and pressed it to my chest. Margaret watched from the kitchen doorway, smiling softly. Good man, she said. The best, I whispered. Spring semester began. I declared my major officially, business management. I started sketching long-term plans. Maybe a supervisory role, maybe logistics, maybe even owning something one day. My life was becoming mine. Not borrowed, not conditional, not a footnote to Andrea's spotlight. Just mine. Then, one afternoon in April, an envelope appeared in the mail. From my parents. I nearly tossed it. But something, morbid curiosity or closure, made me open it. Inside was a single photograph. Me, age 6, at my first wrestling match. Grinning, missing a front tooth, holding a tiny medal. On the back, written in my mother's handwriting, We're sorry, we love you. We hope one day you can forgive us. I stared at the words for a long time. Maybe someday I'd feel something. Maybe someday forgiveness would come. Maybe someday they'd grow into better versions of themselves. Maybe, but not today. I set the photo in a drawer. Then I grabbed my backpack, headed to class, and kept living. Because forgiveness isn't owed. And love without accountability isn't love at all. And my story, the one I'm writing now, doesn't require them to finish it. Spring slid into early summer, and by then the noise from my parents had dulled. From a storm to a hum, background static, something I could tune out. Life had settled into a rhythm I trusted. Work, classes, dinner with Margaret once or twice a week, Late night phone calls with Evan after his shifts, quiet mornings with coffee in the backyard, watching the sun spill over wildflowers no one had bothered to prune. For the first time in my life, peace wasn't something I begged for. It was something I lived in. But peace doesn't make drama disappear. It just makes you strong enough to handle it. I hadn't seen Andrea since she tried to ambush me in the warehouse parking lot. Then, one random Tuesday in June, right after my last final exam, Tony found me in the break room. "There's a fancy-looking car outside," he said. "Girl pacing next to it like she's practicing a speech. Looks like trouble." My shoulders tensed. "Blonde?" I asked. Tony grunted. "Platinum. Expensive hair." I sighed. "Andrea." He crossed his arms. "Want me to escort her off property?" I shook my head. "No, I'll handle it." He nodded slowly. "I'll stand by the door. If she tries anything, I step in." Warmth pricked behind my ribs. Tony wasn't a replacement parent, but he was something close to a guardian. Quiet, blunt, dependable. I walked outside. Andrea stood by her car wearing a sundress and too much makeup for 10 a.m. Her arms were wrapped around herself. When she saw me, her face brightened in a brittle, fake way. "Lena," she said, relieved. "Hi." "What do you want?" I asked. She wrung her hands. "I need advice." That caught me off guard. "About what?" She inhaled sharply. "I'm repeating sophomore year," she whispered. "Again." I blinked. "Andrea, again?" She nodded. "I failed. Everything. I mean everything. Even summer school." Some tiny old reflex in me tried to rise. Sympathy, worry, but I shoved it down. "What does this have to do with me?" I asked softly. She looked up, eyes glossy. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. They think I'm ruining my life. They're yelling all the time. Dad smashed his phone yesterday. Mom blamed me for your restraining order, for Grandpa's will, for everything." I crossed my arms, bracing myself. "And?" I asked. Andrea swallowed hard. "I don't know what to do anymore," she whispered. "I'm failing. They're yelling. Everyone at school hates me. The teachers don't trust me. My friends ignore me unless I'm paying for something." She took a shaky breath. "Tell me what to do, Lena." I stared at her, the sister who'd gotten everything I never had, who'd weaponized tears, who'd treated me like a servant. But now she looked small, lost, cracked around the edges. My voice came out calm and firm. "Start by doing your own work," I said. "Actually doing it. Stop expecting people to fix things for you." Her face twisted. "That's it? That's your big advice? Be responsible? You know how hard everything's been, and you know how hard you've made things for everyone else," I said gently. Andrea flinched. "You're not stupid," I continued. "You're just used to shortcuts. To Mom and Dad solving everything, to me cleaning up your messes, and now that no one is doing that, the consequences feel big." "They are big," she whispered. "They always were," I said. "You just didn't have to face them until now." Andrea blinked rapidly, tears gathering again. This time not dramatic, not manipulative, just human. Can we try to be sisters again?" she whispered. "Real sisters?" I took a breath. A long one. Then another. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday, but right now, I need space. And you need to grow up." She looked down at the pavement and nodded. "I figured," she murmured. "Andrea?" She looked up. "You can fix your life," I said softly. "You just have to be willing to rebuild it from the ground up." She wiped her eyes. "I don't know how." "Then learn." For a moment, she just stood there. Then she whispered, "Bye, Lena," got into her car, and drove off. No screaming, no insults, no theatrics. Just quiet. It was the first honest moment we'd had in years. A month later, the criminal case formally closed. Dad completed his community service and anger management. The charges stayed on his record, and the restraining order stayed in place. Mom tried, very loudly, to get relatives on her side. Some believed her, some didn't. Most stayed out of it. But none of it reached me, because none of it mattered anymore. On the first cool day of October, Margaret knocked on my door and held out an envelope. "This came today." It was from Grandpa. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Lena, I've updated the estate paperwork. Everything is finalized and protected. Your parents can't touch a cent of it. Not now. Not ever. You're doing beautifully. Keep going. I'm proud of you. Always. Love, Grandpa." I folded the letter carefully. Margaret smiled. "Good news?" "The best." That winter, Evan and I finally made things official. He showed up at Margaret's door with takeout, nervous, fingers twitching, like he wasn't sure I'd slam the door. "I like you," he blurted the moment I opened it. "And I want to try, if you want to try." I blinked. "Evan, you're already my boyfriend." He flushed. "Yeah, but like, a more official boyfriend. Not just texting after shifts and worrying from afar. Actually dating. Actually being with you. I smiled. Yeah, I whispered. I want that too. And just like that, I had someone who chose me. Not because they needed something, not because I was convenient, but because they cared. Spring returned. I turned 20 in a warehouse parking lot, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise just like the year before. Only this time, Evan sat beside me, our jackets brushing, our shoulders touching. Happy birthday, he murmured. Thank you, I said. He kissed the side of my head. Proud of you. The sun hit the horizon, warm and soft, and something inside me clicked. I was no longer the girl crying over empty picture frames. No longer the shadow in Andrea's spotlight. No longer the furniture daughter. I had a job I liked. A home that felt safe. A grandfather who believed in me. A boyfriend who showed up. A future with roots and possibilities. And a life fully, wholly mine. In April, another envelope arrived. My parents' handwriting again. This time I didn't hesitate. I opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Me, at 6 years old, holding that tiny wrestling medal. On the back, "We're sorry, we love you, we hope you can forgive us one day." I stared at it for a long time. Not angry, not sad, just reflective. Maybe one day I would forgive them. Maybe I wouldn't. Either way, my life wasn't waiting on their apology. It didn't hinge on their change. It didn't pause at their regret. I put the photo in a drawer with the others, closed it, and walked away. Because forgiveness is a future question, and I was finally living in the present. This is the part of the story where people expect a dramatic final twist. Some explosive confrontation, some grand redemption arc, some movie-worthy ending. But real life isn't a movie. Real life is quieter. Real life is small steps, steady healing, unexpected kindness, and chosen family. Real life is waking up one morning in a room you pay for with your own money, stretching in sunlight that belongs to you, making coffee in a kitchen where no one yells, and realizing this is what growing feels like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what family is supposed to feel like. Maybe someday I'll forgive them. Maybe they'll grow. Maybe I will too. Maybe things will shift in ways none of us see coming. But today I am safe. Today I am happy. Today I am seen. Today I am mine. And that is the ending I choose.